Yo, this video is going to break down damage and how stat points and scaling influence it. When looking at a level 1 weapon, you'll see 100 attack, and below that a number next to the type of damage. You'll also see the letter of scaling to the right of these numbers. I'll try to break down how all this works. No dodos were harmed in the making of this film. First, I'm going to use every uncommon weapon type against a level 1 dodo. These are basically the only creatures in the starting area that do not have any armor. So these values are the most accurate base values for each weapon. Using the rapier, you'll see the base piercing damage is 205. Every 5 stat points multiplies the damage by roughly 6%. So here are the numbers jumping every 5 progression stats for the rapier. Then I'll use the club. Then I'll use the saber. Then I'll use the two-handed sword. And then I'll use the halberd. Once you understand the base damage of each weapon, you can start to check out the other damage multiplier that is critical damage. I'm only going to show the critical multiplier for the base non-upgraded versions of each weapon. This way you can tell how it's actually calculated. You basically add the base damage by 70% to get your critical hit damage. Using this information of base damage and critical damage, you can now test damage efficiently over your limited stamina. Since each swing is not created equal, some drain stamina faster than the others. Using this chart, you can see how using all your stamina while attacking can show the accumulation of damage. This was helpful to notice the saber, while fast, used up more stamina than the rapier. So the rapier wins by far in terms of dumping damage. It was also surprising to me that while the two-handed sword does massive damage, it was still able to outperform the halberd in a number of swings. Next, I want to cover how scaling works as far as I can tell. Scaling is the letter given to different weapons shown while hovering over them. While this damage does scale with each letter, it is very little to be honest. All the weapons I tested out before were uncommon with a B scaling, which was 6% every 5 levels. Moving up to an A grade scaling raises it to 7.6%. and quickly drops towards 6% as you raise the levels. This makes me think that the higher the grade, you simply don't need to put as many points into the weapon stats, so better scaling allows you to use your stat points elsewhere. I don't recommend raising stats above 20 for weapons, since it gets diminishing returns. While the extra damage is always useful, you might have a weapon that has special abilities that has a letter below. I think you should always pick the better ability over scaling. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the armor of different enemies in the coastal jungle. As I mentioned at the start, dodos don't have any armor. However, the boars, crabs, undead, and humans all seem to have the same tier armor. This armor rating decreases your damage by roughly 14.7%. But when you see an enemy that has armored in their name, they will have the next tier above the others. This heavy armor rating decreases your damage by roughly 87%. From what I can tell, different weapon types such as piercing and crude don't change that. They may add that later, but for now, the different weapon classes are simply just for knowing where to put your stats. Hopefully these breakdowns can help out some people while choosing their weapons, or even compare different base damages at different levels and scaling. If you want to continue to see guide videos like this, go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date. There is still a lot more to explore, so don't miss out.